to remain in place. Good evening and thank you for joining us. 2 more Northern First Nations have begun to evacuate as more than 160 fires are now burning across northwestern Ontario. According to the Ministry of the Solicitor General, vulnerable residents of North Spirit Lake and Cat Lake have begun being transferred out today. This comes on the heels of one of the busiest wildfire days in recent memory. Ryan Bonazzo has details.
The Northwest is burning at an alarming rate. Nearly 500,000 hectares of land have burnt so far, more than 3 times the average to date. As of Wednesday morning, there were 168 known wildfires in the region. Nearly half of those, 81, were just discovered on Tuesday, according to the province's Aviation, Forest Fire and Emergency Services.
I've never seen anything like this in my relatively short career with the AFFES, and I've heard some more seasoned veterans of the program remark that they too, was a first for them as well.
Marchand says he's particularly concerned about more than 24 new fires found in the Sioux Lookout district, which have prompted the partial evacuation of 2 more Northern First Nations. The Ministry of the Solicitor General saying, at the request of community leadership, the evacuation of vulnerable residents from North Spirit Lake First Nation and Cat Lake First Nation is beginning. The communities are in the process of evacuating in light of their concerns related to nearby wildfires and smoke impacts.
Officials have put out as many as 6 new fires outside of North Spirit Lake over the past few days, and more new ones are emerging. They're fairly small, albeit they're of a within a proximity of the communities to be of concern.
There is the prospect of some rainfall in both the Red Lake and Sioux Lookout districts in the coming days, but unfortunately that could come with thunderstorms as well, and lightning is a major concern right now given the tinder dry conditions. Ryan Bonazzo, TBT News.
The Ford government has announced a $2.6 billion spending plan for improving Ontario highways this year. The announcement also includes an update on highway twinning projects planned for the Northwest over the next 3 years. The only 4-laning project currently underway in this region is an 8-kilometer stretch of Highway 1117 near Dorian. That $80 million project began last fall and is on schedule for completion in 2023. Today's update says another 6.5-kilometer section near Coghlan Road will be completed by 2024. 2 other sections between Pass Lake and Nipigon are mentioned, but no construction timelines have been provided. There is also an update on the planned 4-laning near Kenora. The government says the first 6 kilometers near the Manitoba border will be completed by 2024, with another section currently in the planning stages. The Thunder Bay District once again saw 0 new COVID-19 cases today, and health unit officials say vaccination numbers have now started to slow down as more people get fully immunized and fewer seek out first doses. The district's medical officer of health is hoping that those planning to return to school make the vaccine a priority to allow more normal return to a classroom this September. Jonathan Wilson reports.
The rate for second doses has picked up in the district, but the overall trend is in the opposite direction. The regional hospital's plan to close its LU vaccination site on Friday is a logical next step, says Thunder Bay's medical officer of health, with immunization capacity at the health unit's CLE clinic at 1,400 per day. Dr. Janet DeMel says they're looking at all available options in an effort to boost immunization numbers.
We will be promoting the walk-in model, and so we will continue to be open and available for people to get immunizations, and of course there's pharmacies, and then we're going to be looking at all the various targeted approach and outreach to really bring vaccine out to people and making sure that everybody has access to the immunization.
DeMille is looking forward to the continual stream of youth getting vaccinated. A large portion of school staff has already gotten their shots, but the medical officer wants to be reassured that schools will be a safe place by fall, with as many vaccines as possible given to those over the age of 12, allowing for in-person learning.
I was very pleased to see the report from the science table and all the partners that were involved that really committed to that. And so I think there's a variety of measures that can be put in place. And of course, the big one being vaccination. So we do want to see the highest possible vaccination rates for students who are eligible, so those 12 and over.
Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
Meanwhile, Dr. DeMille and staff at the District Health Unit were presented with a thank you banner today by officials with the Thunder Bay Catholic District School Board. Superintendent Allison Sargent was on hand to personally thank Dr. DeMille and the Health Unit staff for their tireless work throughout the pandemic, keeping both students and educators safe. The presentation left the Medical Officer of Health very appreciative.
It was very touching. It was very touching. I was caught off guard. I knew this was happening, but I wasn't quite expecting that huge banner and all of those signatures. So I'm looking forward to kind of reading them and appreciate that the effort that they put in.
It was absolutely instrumental. Her and her whole team have just been unbelievably amazing during the whole pandemic, through the closing of schools and opening of schools and closing of schools again and reopening of schools, through the vaccination rollout. You know, we really acknowledged the fact that they understood that we were dealing with kids. You know, the restrictions that they had in place in the schools ensured that students were able to celebrate their milestone occasions.
Sargent says she is confident that this school year will see a major step towards a return to normal for students and teachers alike. Confederation College has been given the go-ahead to loosen restrictions for some of its hands-on learning. The Institute has also announced that while it isn't explicitly requiring staff and students to get vaccinated prior to the fall semester, they are expected to do so. Corey Nordstrom explains.
It's an expectation that people will get vaccinated. Just like when you come to school, it's an expectation you go to classes and you study.
Like those examples, the repercussions don't stretch further than the effect that being unvaccinated and possibly catching COVID-19 could have. Along with that statement, Confederation College also announced that more students will be returning to in-person classes this fall. They recently received approval from the province to remove capacity limits and physical distancing requirements for labs and some theory classes. Roughly a third of the college's enrollment will attend in person, as purely online courses will remain that way for the next semester. College President Kathleen Lynch says some services will return near full capacity for the first time since last March.
We'll have food services available, and that will be expanded. We will have our bookstore available. So we're working with all our contracted services to make sure that they have things in place to accommodate more students on campus.
The recent moves come with the advice of medical professionals in mind, and if there comes a time where the world of science advises restrictions be reimposed, the college will reconsider. Masking and screening will still be in place throughout college facilities.
We're taking our advice, and we also will adjust anything we need to adjust based on that advice from the health professionals. So I can't stress enough their best advice to us to keep people safe, and we take that safety very seriously for staff and students, is to get vaccinated.
College officials are still deciding if immunization proof will be required for students in order to access Confederation facilities. A full plan will be in place by late August. Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
The federal government has announced funding for 2 new projects aimed at revitalizing Indigenous legal traditions, and one of them will be conducted by Lakehead University's Boro-Alaskan Faculty of Law. Justice Minister David Lametti says $918,000 will go to Lakehead University and to the Association of Iroquois and Allied Indians. The local project is geared towards laying the foundation for an Indigenous legal institute in the city. The funding comes in response to a recommendation from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. A motion is set to come to Thunder Bay City Council next week, asking to look at ways to impose a municipal ban on so-called conversion therapy. That's the practice of trying to change someone's sexual orientation or gender identity to conform with societal norms.
It's okay to be gay, bi, transgender, two-spirited. We embrace.
Rainbow Collective President Jason Veltri will make a deputation to Council Monday in support of a motion put forward by Northwood Councillor Shelby Chung. She's asking for Council to express its formal support for Federal Bill C-6 to outlaw conversion therapy across Canada. But she also wants city staff to explore ways to ban the practice locally, given that the federal bill will die if the Liberal government calls an election this summer. Chung would like to go as far as revoking local business licenses for organizations that engage in conversion therapy.
I'm hoping that we can do something that has, some teeth in it. I think it's absolutely important that people in leadership and positions of power speak up for those who don't, who've been told their whole lives that they're broken and that they need healing and that there's something wrong with them when there isn't. These people are made whole as they are.
Queer, trans, and two-spirit people are vulnerable. They're fighting their own inner demons and struggles with their coming out journeys, either through gender or sexual identities. So we know that we need to support them. We don't need to tell them that they're wrong and that they're less than, that they're sinners.
It's unclear how prevalent conversion therapy tactics are in Thunder Bay, given that they're usually undertaken in secret. The United Nations has condemned the practice and has called for a global ban on conversion therapy, saying it inflicts severe pain and suffering on those who are subjected to it and often results in long-lasting psychological and physical damage. Thunder Bay police are reporting a sizable drug bust involving cocaine and fentanyl from a home on North Vickers Street yesterday evening. The search warrant was executed as part of an ongoing investigation into drug trafficking. The estimated street value of the cocaine and fentanyl is more than $23,000. A 34-year-old woman and two men, aged 37 and 26, were arrested, and police say one of those men tried to flee out of a window. Police also found more than $30,000 in cash in the residence. The suspects are facing charges of drug trafficking and possession of property obtained by crime. A 40-year-old city woman, meanwhile, is facing charges following a series of thefts from elderly and vulnerable victims. Police say the charges relate to a string of incidents that began this spring in which homes were entered and residents were either defrauded or had cash or other items stolen. A suspect was finally identified and arrested Tuesday. She remains in custody on theft charges. Well, the major renovations continue at the Wilderness Discovery Center on Chebandoin Lake. The wheelchair-accessible campground received two big fundraising checks this week to help continue improvements on the camp. Mitchell Ringos has more.
The Wilderness Discovery Center has been Ontario's #1 mobility-accessible, barrier-free camping facility since the late 1980s. The campground focuses on individuals with physical disabilities and veterans to give them experiences they couldn't get anywhere else. Over the past few years, around $1 million has been spent on renovations and upgrades, with half of that being fundraised. The buildings feature accessible ramps, motorized beds, sliding doors, and machines to help with wheelchair access. The camp also includes ramps to the beach and activities like fishing, swimming, kayaking, and has many recreational areas. Vice President Jeff Jones says it's a special facility.
We're a place where you can come where many people don't get the opportunity to enjoy the luxuries that we have in Northwestern Ontario of camp life if they have a disability. So this allows them to come and enjoy, feel independent, go down to the dock, they can go fishing, they can go on pontoon boat rides. So a lot of things that we take for granted living in Northwestern Ontario.
The campground has seen many donations over the years, with another one being given out this week. Fort William Rotary Club President Don Sebesta presented a check for $75,000, which they raised from the Fort William House Lottery. And Hagee Bingo host Gary Cooper announced they have raised $100,000 from last year's bingo sales for the organization. This money is going to be put into many restorations, such as more walkways for accessibility, along with a new building to house the staff, freeing up more cabins for guests. The two donors spoke about why their groups continue to support Wilderness Discovery.
I think it's just special because of what they're doing for the community and how they're helping out, in conjunction with Hagee and all the other clubs in Thunder Bay. Just the fundraising, and they're allows all these people to come out here and enjoy themselves.
The funds that were raised only makes us more hopeful in that maybe we might be able to assist with building more cabins so we can get more people out here.
The campsite is going to put the funds to great use in upgrades and has even more plans for the future to build more cabins, ramps, and accessible activities for all their guests. Mitchell Ringos, TBT News.
Officials at Sleeping Giant Provincial Park are issuing a warning to people hiking on the Giant after someone pushed a huge boulder off one of the cliffs recently. This video was posted on social media, and it shows the big rock being rolled over the edge. The sound it made on impact could be heard for miles around. Today, park staff posted on social media saying this type of reckless behavior poses safety risks to others on the trails below and blatantly disrespects a site that is sacred to many. The post goes on to point out that there is a fine under the Parks Act for disturbing or damaging natural objects in a provincial park. They are now asking for eyewitnesses to that event to call the park warden with any information. And another beloved public facility in Thunder Bay has reopened its doors as part of Step 3 of the provincial reopening. The Centennial Botanical Conservatory is now available for anyone looking to unwind and enjoy the peacefulness of the wide variety of blooming flowers, exotic trees, and other unique plants. Despite the pandemic keeping the gardens closed for several months, Karen Nadeau, the lead hand curator at the conservatory, says the shutdown wasn't all bad news for her plants.
It did help us with our planting out in the parks. Then we didn't have to have somebody here watching all the time and maintaining it. People have been calling and wanting to come here constantly. They go outside, however, they need to come in and just relax, and it's their home away from home.
The conservatory is welcoming the community back inside the gardens from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. 7 days a week. And while admission is free, donations towards maintaining the beauty of the gardens are greatly appreciated.
Well, Fiona, for those that were a fan of the weather we saw yesterday, I'm sure they pretty much like today as well, because it's almost a carbon copy of what